You're starting early.
How you doing? Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Very good, thank you.
I got a few questions for you after you.
Okay, we'll go and run the questions. We'll just go to get around once, and we'll go right to the questions.
Okay, super.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
This is really awesome.
I'll take a Florida. Thank you. You've been waiting for it.
Too hot. Too hot.
Florida. It'll soon be Alaska.
I'm sorry, I hope you're not melted.
I am.
Well, this is what Alaska's going to feel like in 20 years.
Probably that corner right there.
If I stand over there,
I can actually turn this
somebody had a question you wanted to start this. First of all, let me thank you very much. I understand some of you have traveled from some distance, and you say you're happy to meet me. Well, I'm happy and honored to meet all of you, and the level of commitment that this shows is just very touching and very humbling. Very, very humbling. You know, we don't have much in the way of resources except people, and resources are what you do with money is to try to persuade people. So if you got people already persuaded, and they're persuading friends, that's just as good as money and better, because you don't have to mess around with the money. Somebody wanted to start with a question. Okay, first question, then we'll go into that, because I think you all know a little bit about me, otherwise you wouldn't have made the effort. But we can amplify facets of where I stand on certain issues and about me personally. First question.
All right. I've become what I would call like politically aware in the last few years, and really drawn in and studied politics quite a bit recently. And one of the things I've been asking myself, I think I have the answer, but I want to hear your opinion, is are we in the normal up and down of American politics where things seem screwed up, but it's self-correcting? Or are we in a situation now where, if you look at the prism of all of American history, are we in a situation where we're in a dire situation?
Boy, that's a very excellent question and excellently framed. I would have said, leaving a few issues aside, that it's the normal up and down. But now when you include two separate issues, it's not normal anymore. And the first issue is the American imperialism. What we Americans have fallen prey to as a result of the power we acquired in the Second World War was that we're the greatest in the world, we're the strongest in the world, and now with the implosion of communism, we're the only superpower in the world. That's a very dangerous situation to be in, both from a hubris point of view and an actual point of view. And actually is we demonstrate our hubris. We go to war for no reason at all. We invade other countries. We think we can, if we don't like Fidel Castro when he first came on the scene, well then we cuff him and we sanction him. You look around the world and who we try to punish, and who are we to punish? And of course we used to be able to say, well, we're better than everybody else. Not when we've done torture. You know, we have no moral pedestal left to stand on. And so but other countries knew this even before the torture situation. You know, we're an amalgam. So right now, I'm very concerned that unless, and we take the words of Dwight Eisenhower very seriously, he predicted what will defeat our democracy will be the military-industrial complex. And that is happening. In fact, since he said that at the end of his term, there's no other person approaching the presidency, I mean approaching as a candidate, who's even acknowledged that problem. Now, that's looking at it just from an American point of view. Now look at it from a global citizen point of view. We're going to cook ourselves off the planet within 90 years. We will not have a planet left. And because of the nature of leadership, and I'm talking globally as well as American leadership, the representative government as an institution, as a governance institution, has topped out. It cannot get any better. It's not very good, but it's better than tyranny. But it can't get any better because it's not designed to self-correct. And so what we have to do is we got to change the nature of human governance away from what we have right now. And that is that you look at the problem, there's only two venues for change. One is the government, wherein lies the problem, and the other is the people. And so you have to go to the people. Now, why is it that the people have not been able to solve this problem before? We've been gleaned since childhood that, well, you control your government by voting on election day. Well, that doesn't happen. And I could go into some length as to why it doesn't happen. But it doesn't. So that means if that's not going to work, then what's missing? Well, then you analyze, you say, what is the central power of government? Or the central element of civilization? Laws, obedience to laws, or the ability to make laws. That's where the power is. So if we can now equip the American people to make laws in a deliberative fashion, they will now, for the first time in our history, have what Abraham Lincoln defined as a government by the people. We've never had a government by the people in this country. There's only one place on earth that has a government by the people, and that is Switzerland. In 1848, after a 3-year religious civil war, they copied our Constitution, and the only addition they made is to bring the people in as lawmakers in partnership with their elected officials. And since Switzerland has lived in peace, per capita the wealthiest people in the world, and they have no assets, no resources, 4 languages, 4 cultures, 4 religions, and they live in peace. And they had a referendum about 3 or 4 years ago about what to do with their immigrants, and the people voted to let the immigrants acquire citizenship in Switzerland. And I know most people look upon the Swiss as sort of insular. Not so, not so. And that's the only place on earth that has what I'm talking about, bringing the people in as partners, being able to make laws, and it's a win-win, because the people that you elect to office, they'll be able to do a better job on the day-to-day operation of government, but you can do a better job on voting on the policies that affect your lives. You are all the authority of your life. You don't need, if you're a woman, you don't need 9 people in black robes standing in the hospital room, and then 535 members of Congress standing in a hospital room, and your doctor can't even get in to talk to you. That's the situation imagery that you have today with the way they're viewing a woman's right to choose. And I could go on the stupidity of our drug war. Our drug war. We are savaging. Savaging is the word. The inner cities of America, not over drugs, the drug war. And who in this room doesn't understand that in the 20s, the failure of prohibition, it brought about mafia and we criminalized people. And the biggest problem that we did, we created a disrespect for the law because people would go to speakeasy. The law was very clear. And when a democracy begins to nurture disrespect for the law within its constituency, it is on the downhill drag. And that's where we are with our drug war. And then you hear this rhetoric, oh, these immigrants disobeyed the law. My God, how many of these people disobey the law every single day and don't even own up to it, or aren't even aware that they're disobeying the law? We have to treat the drug issue as what it is. It's a public health issue. I tell you, marijuana is no more addictive than alcohol. No more addictive. And so if we can deal with alcohol, then we can deal with marijuana. Plus, marijuana has health properties. There's a new study out that shows that marijuana can cure a certain kind of a tumor cancer. Now, this is something we ought to outlaw. And several, I forget the number of states that have now pass laws, but we should legalize the whole thing. Then with hard drugs, we just treat it like the problem it is. You turn around, you want to live on cocaine, go get a doctor, give you a prescription, you go to a pharmacy, you get it filled. We have experiments in Netherlands and Switzerland where the people who do have a medical dependency, a drug dependency, if you turn around and stabilize it, they go on to normal lives. They get jobs, they become productive, they have families, and they just go on. Here, I take pain pills every day because I have neuropathy. Now, I don't take as many pain pills as I could because they make me sleepy if I take too many. So I have a drug dependency. I depend upon Lyrica to sustain the pain that I have all the time. So what's the big deal? I mean, we make it a big deal, and then we turn around and punish people and put them in jail that shouldn't be in jail. They should have productive lives. There's another problem that when I talk about the drug war, I don't talk about the prison problem. We have 2.3 million people in prison. Half of them should not be there. How do we get them back into society as productive members? Because if we don't have a program to do that, they're going to continue to be a drag on our society, which we cannot afford. And these are people that are going to have a life expectancy of another 50 years where they can be contributors and that, well, I could go on the issues that turn my, that's just one question. I'll try to be briefer on the next one. Please.
Well, I commend you on your courage and your wisdom to be able to address all these issues and actually be able to stand up and speak your mind. I mean, just be able to stand in front of everybody and say that you have a drug dependency problem. I mean, on pharmaceutical drugs, whereas
There's
the
no
amount of
difference.
pharmaceutical, there's no difference between you and millions of other Americans out there that are popping the same pills. I mean, everybody knows from what we read in the papers that the amount of drugs that Americans are taking increases annually. I mean, it just keeps going up and up, just as well as the advertising from these pharmaceutical companies. So, I mean, it goes hand in hand. But I want to address again the military-industrial complex because I really see this as being really the state of the world right now, and really where the Bush administration is really starting to, sack not only our economy but our fabric of our society. And so that being said, we're probably going to spend well over $1 trillion just for Iraq alone. Now, short of a revolution or a military coup, and it would be great to be able to actually witness that here in America, it's probably not going to happen. Now, I say a revolution would be nice to have happen, but most Americans are really too busy trying to earn a living. And we have the comforts of our own home, we've got TVs, we've got cars, we've got relatively cheap gasoline, so most people consider it other people's problem. But the military-industrial complex has been able to become so large because of the politicians that give them our tax money. Now, we've seen it with Duke Cunningham or Jack Abramoff and a lot of other people that have been really well within both the lobbyists and within the Senate, Congress, and probably even the executive branch that are on the tape, essentially. Now, if there's not going to be a military coup, which there won't be, and if there can't be revolution because really people in America are just too comfortable to revolt, we need people like you who are actually going to make a difference. But you basically have said that you want our society, our government to become actually by the people. How do we do that? How do you really realize that? You've said it a lot of times. How do you implement that? How would you implement
You raised so many points that let me come back to that because, I want to give you some names of some people that are on a take that you don't know are on a take. Hillary's on a take.
Right.
Obama's on a take. Edwards is on a take. They're all on a take.
Right.
All the Republicans, for sure, they're all on a take,
Yeah.
except probably Ron Paul. Okay? So you've got to differentiate. It's more dangerous to have a person who you think is a decent leader but is caved into certain areas. More damage is done to our nature of government by a Democrat like Bill Clinton than is done by George Bush. Because when George Bush does it, you all know it. My God, we just see it. It's a terrible mistake. He's an idiot. He's crazy.
And he's corrupt.
Well, that's right, but you see it. Now, when you see Bill Clinton in office doing the same thing but not apparent,
Right.
who started the arms race in space? Bill Clinton. Why did Bill Clinton insist that Hillary, when she went into the Senate, would get on the Armed Services Committee? You think that's an accident? Has she been on the Armed Services Committee trying to tear apart the Armed Services? Heck no. She's in there, and then you look at where the contributions come in. They're all coming in from the military-industrial complex, and then the medical-industrial complex, and the security-industrial complex. There's just no end to this. So you ask a question, well, it is very discouraging. I view this as a tipping point. And I don't just say this because of me. They scare me. All of them scare me. You heard me say that on the first debate.
Yeah,
They do scare me. And the more I stand up with them and see how they're approaching problems, I'm more scared than when I first started. It doesn't get any worse. Here, let's take Obama, a classic example. Here, he comes out, you know, I had great hopes for Obama. And I see him going down the tubes as fast as he can go. He now says we need 100,000 more people in the military. Why? If we're a peaceful nation and we're getting out of Iraq, why do we need more people in the military? Now, we may need to straighten out the military in certain areas, but we don't need to add another 100,000 people. Who are we going to invade?
We need to improve the standards in the military.
Well, and you know something? You start by picking stars off of some shoulders of these suck-up generals that we have.
Peter Pace.
Well, not only Peter Pace, Petraeus. I mean, you're going to see from him next week. I could have predicted the day he was promoted what he's going to say next week. I mean, you know he's going to say. He's going to say, oh, we're making some progress, and you've just got to wait a little bit longer in the spring, may be able to withdraw some troops. We should take them all out right now. We should have took them out a year ago. But that's what you're going to predict what he's going to say. He endorsed de facto George Bush just before the 2004 election. He had 3 stars. Now he's got 4. So from his point of view, as a career movement, he did the right thing. He's got 4 stars, and he's the head over there. And the way our society works is many times we take the fools and we promote them one step higher. The Kissingers always rise in the firmament of power. The people who tell the truth, they're trashed. They're pushed aside. Those are the whistleblowers that we don't want any part of. And my God, the only thing that keeps this country sane is the leaks. We leak like a sieve, and we need more leaks for the people to find out what's going on. Answer to your question, how? All I can do is put one foot in front of the other, and I have on the books. It took me 10 years to write the legislation called the National Initiative. I did it with the help of people from Harvard, Yale, from Georgetown, from Auburn, and from Berkeley, and then some other scholars in the political area. These are just constitutional scholars. This thing is sound as all get out, and that is that you are the sovereigns. And when they tell you that you have no right to change the Constitution, what they're saying is that you got to use Article 5. That's how the government amends the Constitution. But that doesn't work. You see, because if we truly are the sovereigns, the creators of our government, then we cannot ask our createes, the people who are subservient to what we have created, permission to now change it. That is ludicrous as logic. And that destroys any constitutional argument that anybody attempts to put up. And I have people like Richard Parker out of Harvard, Akhil Amar, the greatest constitutional scholar in the United States, is first generation Pakistani. And he looks Pakistani. He's a little short guy, beard. I mean, he's got to be carded every time he goes to the airport. And yet he is the constitutional scholar. His last book, and he's extremely published, his last book was The Constitution, a Biography. If you want to get a feel for it. And he believes that people have the right to change the Constitution. And that's what this law that I have. And so I'm running for president. 3 years ago, a friend of mine called me. He said, Gravel, if you want to live to see the national initiative come into being, you got to run for president. To be able to focus the celebrity attention onto what you're trying to accomplish. And I said he was crazy. 3 or 4 months later, I figured out he was right. There's no way I could get by the mainstream media. There's 2 reasons why this very thought is marginalized in our society. They're marginalizing me as a candidate. If I weren't advocating what I'm advocating, I would not be marginalized. Oh, I'd be just another senator who's had a number of accomplishments. But I'm marginalized not because of me, I'm marginalized because of what I'm trying to do. And what that does is when you empower the people, you disempower or you dilute the power of two major institutions, the Congress of the United States and all legislative bodies, and you disempower the media. Because you don't need the media to tell you what's going on over there. Because in this legislation that I've written, all the processes are there for you to be totally informed. You'd have to be hiding under a rock not to know there's an initiative coming up next week. You don't have to vote. I never made the claim that one that everybody has to vote. If it interests you, you vote for it. And if you didn't vote for it, and because it didn't interest you, and then later on it hurts you, you'll vote the next time. And so the whole process is there. The communications are such that Warren Buffett could spend $1 billion on one side of the issue, and Gates could spend $1 billion on it. Won't make any difference. Once you identify as the national constituency or the state constituency, once you identify your self-interest, you can't be bribed. Now, that's not the case with legislature. That's not the case with the Congress. They're easy to buy. You can't buy the people. The majoritarian position will rule.
Well, that comes to another question. Why aren't people well informed? Like before an election, why aren't there mailings to each and every voting age person that here's what's going to be on the ballot, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's the side, here's
But
that
it
side.
doesn't work that way because
doesn't.
24 states, and it doesn't because there's a different. The process never properly got there. But here, there's 3 benchmarks in our particular history. There's some to go back further in civilization. One is the founding of this country. Why didn't the founders do things a little different or better? They were there, we weren't there. They just come off of kingship, of royalty, and so they started from scratch. Now keep in mind, the founders were property owners, so they saw things from their elitist position. And so they designed an elitist government. It could have been different had slavery not reared its head at the time. The reason why you can't make laws today in the United States at the federal level is because of slavery. When they cut the deal for slavery, they had to turn around and fix it so the people would not ratify the Constitution. Let me follow this very interesting scholarship. One is they knew in Philadelphia in 87 that in 77 and 78 in Massachusetts they wrote a constitution that included slavery, and they put it to the people for ratification, to all the people. They voted against it because of what slavery was there. 2 years later, they put a new constitution up, left slavery out, actually set it up for manumission, and the people overwhelmingly approved it. Now, they're sitting 8 years later in Philadelphia, and they're accommodating. These are all property owners now. They're more frightened than the ordinary citizen. The ordinary citizen doesn't have as much to lose as the elite. So when there's fear, the elites fear more than the ordinary citizen. So they're sitting there, and they know the country's coming apart. And so now they're intimidated by Rutledge out of South Carolina and Georgia saying, we're not going to be party to this system unless we can include slaves. And so they give in, and that was the beginning of the end. And you're telling me time is running out.
We have 6 minutes to make 2 real short questions, please.
Okay, sure. Did I answer yours and yours first?
I want to know if you support the Real ID Act and why or why not.
The real idea. You're talking about running around with identification?
Yes, national ID card.
I have no problem with a national ID card. I know it disturbs a lot of people, but you know something? I got one in my wallet right now. Let me show it to you. It's called my license. It's got my picture on it. Okay? Now all we can do is we can design a better ID card than this. A real serious ID card that then I can show this. But right now, that's all I got, and it's real ID. Now, if people don't want the ID, they don't have to take it. But if you go to an airport, rather than line up like a bunch of ducks and treat you like search and seizure, then you could go in with your real ID and get in and get it out of the way.
Isn't that a police state, though? And
We already got a police state. We already have a police state.
aren't we trying to work against that?
Well, not with the ID you won't solve it, Paul. We already got you. They know where you are. They know where you are commercially. So getting a better ID to protect you as an individual is not bad because they already have you. This is the way to get away from it. There's great confusion on this issue. I happen to be, I want a good ID. I want everybody else to have a good ID. so that we don't have to put up with a lot of this crap that we're going through right now, because they do got you. Just here, I just got an unlisted telephone number because of the campaign. Okay, I get more calls against right now than I ever had before when I did not have an unlisted phone number. And how did that happen? The Congress passed a law written by the marketers so they could have better access. Just brought to my attention, I want to talk a little bit about the fair tax. This is an issue for me, second only to the national initiative. And the reason why it has such importance to me is that without a change in our system of taxation, we will never properly address the other domestic issues we have. Healthcare, term limits, you name it, all of these things. We collect our taxes unfairly. The people know this actually or intuitively. And so when you see your government collecting taxes, and you know it's not being done fairly, you now have in your mind that, hey, what are they going to use that? You think they're going to use that money fairly? Of course not, because they don't even raise it fairly. So what happens, it creates in you a disrespect for the government. It creates a willingness not to pay taxes. The income tax right now sounds good. The more you earn, the more you pay. That's not what happens. It's been gained over the years. The code stands that high. I've been on the Finance Committee for 8 years, so I'll tell you, it's an abomination. No human being on earth even understands it. And so it's corrupt. And it's designed to now shift the burden from the wealthy to the ordinary citizen, and then the poor get nothing. The fair tax is the same thing. It's a progressive tax like the income tax. The more you spend, the more you pay in the way of taxes. If you don't want to pay a lot of taxes, don't spend so much money. That's simple. It's not a complicated situation. So that's progressive. Now we can make it even more progressive, and this is the beauty of it. Because we can identify how much you spend on the essentials of life. Clothing, medicine, shelter, even transportation. All of the essential food. And so now we don't give you an exemption at the store, because if we did that, then we'd be back doing what corrupted the income tax system. It played the system. So there's no exception, none at all. But we can calculate how much the tax will be on those essentials of life and send you a check every month. It's not insubstantial. You're talking about anywhere from $300 to $500. And then you would get that money as a cash flow every month, and then you would go get your paycheck, and there's no income taxes taken out, no FICA, none of that, because we will pay for all of those things through a retail sales tax. What the tax will do, it will turn around and take this country and turn it from a consuming nation, which is what's killing us economically, into a savings nation like the Asian tigers and the European countries. That's what this one system of taxation will do for us. It'll turn around the whole country, and that's how we'll be able to address the thing. I think I covered that subject.
Why is it that you think there's not more Democrats that support the fair tax?
I think that, they're trapped in the rhetoric. Whenever you say, and I have this happen to me all the time when I speak to Democratic groups, says, oh God, Gravel, you'll walk on water. Then all of a sudden, I make the statement, we should not tax corporations. Oh my God. Well, this guy's just gone off the deep end. Well, then I go into my ritual. Let's do Economics 101. You're in business. You turn around and have to acquire a resource. Then you have to hire people to process the resource. You're going to make these widgets. And so then you have to put on an area of profit, otherwise you won't be in business next year. Then after that, whatever the government taxes you add that on. And then who pays the corporate tax? Not the corporations. You who buy the widgets, the consumers. You've heard this statement. There's, single payer. Everybody thinks, that's the government. The government doesn't pay for anything. Not at all. There's only one single payer in our society. It's you, the taxpayer, the consumer, the citizen. That's it. There's nothing else. And so if you now pay indirectly by socking it to the corporations and destabilizing them and stopping them from doing their first mission, which is to produce a product efficiently, then we can compete in the world and not have the rust belt that we've created across the country. We love to point the finger, it's outsourcing. The tax system has done more damage to the United States economy than outsourcing has ever thought of doing. And yet, nobody wants to talk about it. There's nobody really up front that has a program change. Last question, or whatever. I like it here. I don't want to go. There's these terrible staff guys that are taking me out. Please, go ahead.
Why, first of all, how can all the candidates except maybe Kucinich sleep at night knowing that they're on the wrong side of history, like regarding gay rights? And second question, what could you do to make support in the country for same-sex marriage if you became president?
For which one?
How could people sleep at night, like all the main
No, you got
candidates?
that, the last
And then
part.
the second part is, how would you gain support? How would you create support in the country for same-sex marriage? Because I think I
Well,
heard
first off, you do it with leadership. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now. In any forum that I'm at, and I'm so proud to be the poster boy of the gay community. I really am. And for me, it's a civil rights issue. It's a human rights issue. And when you stop and think, and these religious people have appropriated the word marriage, they don't own marriage any more than anybody else. It's a secular term. All societies through civilization have always had this term. And what is marriage? Marriage is a commitment between two human beings in love. Why make a distinction that you have to be a man and a woman? Why not a woman and a woman, a man and a man? It's a commitment of people in love. And if there's anything we need to do with the human race, is create more love. And that's what the basis of this is. It disturbs these religious people. I don't understand it. I don't understand people who pray to a God and tells them to go to war and create violence and kill other people. That's not the God I know. The God I know is a God of love. Just that simple. Now, how to change that? And I'm resentful for people in the gay community who continue to donate money to Edwards and to Hillary, because they're not going to get anything out of them. Hillary's responsible for don't ask, don't tell, because her husband was a coward and wimped out in the face of the military leadership. And I could give you a comparison to Harry Truman. So no, you advance, you push the ball down the field by people running for office, standing up and telling the people the truth. Now some people won't accept the truth, but you give it the best way you can. And that's what I'm trying to do in this campaign. And what I hear more than anything else, and people are beginning to recognize me, Senator, you're a breath of fresh air. That's right, because the air is so foul with politics as usual that we have to change it. I can do the best I can. You know something? You are as responsible as I am. I'm trying. It's up to you to do something about it, either with my candidacy or any other facet that moves you, to move the ball down. I'm not perfect on all the views, and we may disagree on some views. But I'll tell you what, I want to empower you to make laws. And so when an issue comes up, I'll have only one vote, whether I'm president of the United States or not. And you'll have one vote, and you can always cancel my vote. Let me thank you for your turnout. Any modest contribution you can make on our website would be more than appreciated. I don't have to raise $100 million, but I'll tell you, I raise $10 million in the next year, I will win the presidency of the United States. And if that's what you want, then it's up to you to help me do it. Thank you.
I'm going to see you at the next stop.
Okay, well then you keep your
And
camera rolling.
my question's going to be, are electronic voting machines rigged?
Great. Okay, yes,
So I'll let
they
you think
are.
about it on the way over there.
Well, I don't
if
have
you
to think
want.
about it, I know it.
Can I take a quick picture with you?
You sure can.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
okay. Quit anybody else.
Senator, we're 10 minutes late.
That's okay, we've got enough for pictures. Get over here. Wait, get her in here. Get in here. Give somebody else your camera, get between us. Come on. Get your finger off that.
That's right.
Oh, that's... You're like my wife. I buy her an expensive camera, and this is what she runs around with.
Okay.
What do you think the best will happen when you have is great on the board of authority and international leadership?
Morality is the study of you've got a problem with him, you've got to push that aside to give him to him and vice versa. That's the answer.
I like that answer.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
I'm the president of College Democrats of USF.
Hey, well,
I just want to say thanks for coming. USF, University up here.
Okay, well then
I don't have a camera, but
that's okay. I'm counting on you to organize.
Yeah, anything y'all need.
Well, you organize and get
Yeah, I got this thing helped organize.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And
I'd like to get my picture with you because I heard about it.
You got the rhetoric down.
I read Wayne Madsen report every day. That's how I first heard about you, man. The best muckraker. Yeah, he's the best. Oh yeah, I had the honor to meet him in the last.
He's got a big beer belly.
We shared a couple of beers up in D.C. I saw him at the last.
Well, the next time, don't share. You drink it. Don't let him drink it.
Why can't we buy any stickers or?
Well, we've been so thin. It's coming.
Okay.
On a website, we're just putting up a package that you can get a small package, medium package, big package. It's just that we didn't have the reason. Listen, tell me about that. Tell me about
need a
that.
press agent,
yes,
man.
yes, I know that. Tell me about
How
it.
can we help
We
you?
just had a headquarters.
I'm the state director in Florida. You
He's
have
the
my
guy.
email. Send me an email.
David?
I'm David.
David,
Yes.
yes.
Jim.
And
Jim,
organize with him. I'll tell you what.
Get me an email.
Florida is very significant. If you help him organize his state, you'll see some changes nationally. I get to 10% in the polls. Katie barred the door. You watch.
God bless you.
Can I get a picture, Mr. Gravel?
Yes, yes. Yes, you can. Where's your camera? Okay, get it. Where's the camera? Get over here. Get next to me. Okay. You're bigger than I am. Okay, one more. Said that someday the people are going to want peace so bad they're going to turn around and push the government aside and grab at peace. Well, I'll tell you, they're going to be able to push the government aside if they're equipped to make laws with the national initiative. That lady who just scrunched at a question. We're just forcing him to get in. Okay. Please.
Yes, she has a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Are electronic voting machines rigged?
Of course they are. What? There you go. There you go. Here, when you get the likes of, and I've only heard him speak once. Who's that moderate from Nebraska? What's his name? Republican. Hagel. Yeah. They tell me what a moderate. Oh God, he's a wonderful senator. I heard him speak for half an hour and I could have barfed all over the place. The guy says nothing. This is your moderate. Your moderates in Congress. Spare us from the moderates. I'd rather have the extremes. Because then you can recognize what they're trying to do to you. It's the moderates that sneak up on you. It's that little frog in the hot water. You know, they just keep turning the heat up and you don't jump out. I'd rather have the Bushes are doing us a service right now. Because we see how bad it is, and maybe the American people will finally stand up and say, we're fed up and we want fundamental change. Now, keep in mind, this magic word change, you hear Hillary using it, you hear Obama, everybody's talking about change. Well, it's real simple. Somebody did a focus group and said that the people want change. Ready to change. Well, let's use the word change and change and change. But next time you hear anybody talk about change, ask yourself this question: what the hell they said? Are they backing that word up with something fundamental?
Right.
There is nobody backing up the word change with what I'm talking about. Empowering the people. That's change. That is change. The rest is politics as usual and the same old garbage heap. And that's what you're going to get if you don't wake up. And I'm talking about not just you. Obviously, I was preaching to the choir. But if the American people do not wake up, they're going to get the government they deserve. Just that simple. And so, and that it's going to take the rest of us over the side with them. That's what's bad about it. So you have a responsibility that's very serious. It's not a question to say, oh, I'm concerned about the issues. You got to do something about it. You got to do something about it. And if my candidacy is what you focus on to do something about it, then do something about my candidacy. I'm not talking about magic. I'm talking about putting one foot in front of the other. I tell people all the time, hey, what can we do? Here, you can organize. You can organize. Where's my state chairman? He's hiding outside. And you work with him because you're a good organizer. That's where it's at. It's not me. I'm gonna do the best I can. And that may be enough, it may not be enough. I don't know, but I do know one thing. I will do that. If you want to change this country, then you have as much responsibility to do that as I have. And I'll tell you, I become president, I'm going to be there for 4 years. And people talk about age. How many of you know of John the 23rd? 2 popes back in the 1960s. Well, John the 23rd became pope when he was 78 years old. He lived for 4 years, did more changes to the Catholic Church than have been done in 500 years. I become president of the United States, you'll have more changes under my leadership than since George Washington was in office.
There we go.
You'll be happy to see me leave because you'll be tired of so much change. Please, who has another? Okay,
You know,
please.
we really are concerned about these rigged voting machines and the fact that we no longer know who's really being elected and people that we really don't think are getting elected with these rigged computer machines. Now, I know there's a Holt bill and it looks watered down to me. It looks like a sellout. Can you give us some direction on this problem? Because I think
There's
it's
a
a
national
huge problem.
organization. There's a national organization that wants to use ballots, with paper ballots, for this coming election. I endorse that very strongly. I have no problems using technology if you use it properly to make voting easy. You know, we move billions of dollars around the world electronically. We can, if you want to do it properly. But the companies that deal in these voting machines, they say their stuff is proprietary. They won't let you look in the black box. Well, that's the first suspicious thing that you want to put up. So I know there's an organization in New Hampshire. I would hope that there's one here in Florida, because you've been damaged in this state probably more than anybody else in any other state that I know of in the country with respect to elections. So you've got to be able to fight for a written ballot for this coming election. I'm the kind of guy that they will really rig. If I start rising in the polls, I got to tell you, I'm the guy they're going to rig the election against.
Right,
They got
that's
to.
what I'm worried about.
How else are you going to stop me? You've got to do that, and you can't let that happen. It's your responsibility. There are organizations nationally. You join them and help get that out, because there's no way to deal with this. It's too corrupt. And so you understand, one of the factors that's in the Constitution which denied you the ability to make laws was the fact that elections are controlled at the local level, state and local level. That was a way to maintain slavery. That's one of the 5 that are in the Constitution, and one's gone. And so that is there. It's a mischievous activity. And so what you want to do now is to change that. Now, the Congress had the right. After Florida, the Congress should have, and they did, they passed the law. It's called the Help America Vote Act, and they took $3 billion and threw it, and obviously the lobbyists with their clients went out and started making these phony machines that don't really work and don't satisfy our needs. But that's the Congress. Don't look at the manufacturers. They want to make a buck. It's the Congress that gave them the money. Do you think that the Congress could have woke up and said, wait a second, now we've been having problems at the state level in many of these areas ever since our country was born. Why not have a federal system to elect federal officers? But that's not the way it works. It was never intended that way because they wanted to have the control, not at the federal level, but at the state level, and that was particularly to protect slavery. And that's the reason why you have had, from the founding George Washington to the Civil War, you had every president, every speaker of the House that was a slave owner except 2. But enough on the voting machines. It's your responsibility. There's got to be an organization in this state doing something about it.
Yeah, well, we're aware of them, but we're just not sure what the
Well,
solution
help
is.
them. Yeah.
Very quickly, sir, I know this is an absolutely huge question, but what is the primary 2 or 3 differences in the Senate today versus being in the Senate when you were there in the 70s?
This really, I think a lot of people like to think that there's a lot of difference. There truly isn't. People like to say, well, boy, Gravel was really courageous out there. He did this, did that. I filibustered a lot. Well, you know, that makes your peers dislike you. I used to come back to my office, my staff would say to me, Senator, please act a little more normal. They didn't say it, but they meant you're an embarrassment to us. That's what was behind the statement. And of course, I know that. I've had senators come up to me. I filibustered repeatedly. And they come to me and say, Gravel, what the hell are you doing? You're disrupting the Senate. Of course I disrupted the Senate. I wasn't there to run a popularity contest. I was a tunnel vision kind of guy. I wanted to make some changes. And lo and behold, I made some changes, very significant changes. And thank God I've lived long enough so people can now look back and say, boy, what a courageous leader he was. Well, look what's happening to me today. The mainline media is trying to marginalize me. Not for me as a person. They would like to just treat me like any other old senator. But no, they're afraid of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real basic change, or in other words, revolution. Revolution to make ourselves a better democracy and to lead the world in that regard and to cut out the military. You'll never get control of the military-industrial complex until the people are empowered to make laws. It just never happen. Every time you go to the airport and you stand in this silly line, and I just see this, I'm going, I know it does not add to our security. I know that from the studies I've read, and yet we all line up like a bunch of ducks, robots, in 1984, just marching in unison, going through, taking our shoes off, emptying out water. I can't believe, and we Americans put up with this. This is a matter of course. You know how far down the road we've come to being made robots, to a tyranny?
Yeah.
And we're worried about what's happening up there. My God, just go to the airport and look at the people as they line up. Yeah, well, enough said on that subject. You know my views. Let's talk about, please,
All right, I've got a couple questions.
one at a time.
All right.
Don't tax me, just one at a time.
Okay, first, just for laughs and giggles, how about that rock video that you did? I just have to ask, I have to ask.
Please, let me, I don't know how many of you know about the rock and the rock and well, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting because what had happened was my Southern California chairman, she calls me on the phone and says there's a couple of kids from some college here. They've got time to out of school. They teach art and technology. Now that's an interesting mix right there. And they want to do a video of you. And I said, well, what do they want to do? They want you to throw a rock in the water. I said, tell them they got it, give me as much time as they need. So I was in San Francisco. They came up from Los Angeles, driving a little old car with a wheelbarrow in the back, with a pile of sticks and rocks. And then I was busy having other things to do, but I gave them from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And so lo and behold, they told me exactly what to do. I followed it to a T, didn't question or anything, except that when they said, look in the TV camera, look in the camera, I kept thinking, man, I must look real stupid. And I'm so close, my nose is going to be all across my face. And so then they said, pick up and go throw a rock in the water. And I did that. And then I kept walking. And I was yelling as I'm walking, when do you want me to come back? Keep walking, Senator. Keep walking, Senator. And then I walked into where they couldn't hear me anymore or see me anymore. And I turned around and said, I better walk back. So I go back, Senator, let's have another take. So they do it again. And then the third take, they had a big rock. Because every time I turn around, there's a new rock here. There's no other rocks around. So I go pick up this rock, throw it in the water. What it is these young kids, 24 years old. Everybody's younger. 50 and below are kids for me. So these young kids figured out a metaphor that applies to every one of you. What is that you focus on something in your life and you go do it and you hope it causes beneficial ripples and then you march off to your demise. That is the secret of life. And these kids had this thing programmed, and then at the end of the shoot, they said, well, we're going to send you a proof of it. Don't bother me with the proof. This is your property. You do what you want with it. I trust you. End of story. Then they put it out. The first day it shows up on YouTube. My wife gets up in the morning and wakes me in, and she's got two pieces of bad news. One is I've forgotten it. The other is she says, there's some crazy thing about you on YouTube. I said, it makes you look like a fool. I said, what do you mean? What is it? Oh, it's about you throwing a rock. I'm not a fool, these kids. And so I got interviewed 5 times on national network on that subject, that exact question. And what I had a pleasure doing was to give their names and phone numbers. I said, hey, don't look at me. I was just the warm body. And call these kids. And they were getting national visibility. 2 young kids. They were so excited. And, well, there's a few other things I could talk about the fire, but I won't go there.
My second question was on healthcare. I'm just curious, do you have a plan for healthcare? And I'd love to hear it if you do.
Yeah.
I have the only sensible plan for healthcare, and I say that with humility, because all the other plans, including dentists, the other plans deal with asking or forcing business to carry a load. Why should a small business like this that we're standing in have to carry the load of healthcare for its employees? It's no sense at all. It's a health problem. It's not a business problem. And so we need to get, and the answer is real simple. When a business in the United States carries the cost of healthcare, it makes itself less competitive in the world. And so what you're doing is you're swapping jobs for healthcare, and you get neither. That's essentially the program we have. So when Hillary and Obama and all the others are telling you, we got to have the business do it, it's crazy. They're going the wrong direction. If there's a cost to healthcare, let's focus on what it should be and how it should be paid. And that will lead me into the fair tax. Because I think the cost of healthcare should be paid for by a retail sales tax, a slice of a retail sales tax. Well, let me go back. I have a voucher program. It was not my design. It was a design of my professor when I was at Columbia University, who's now emeritus from Stanford. His name is Victor Fuchs, and Israel Emanuel from the NIH, and Dr. Kotlikov from BU. And they've all landed on vouchers. We issue you a voucher every year. You sign up for it. You don't pay for it. You sign up for the voucher. This voucher entitles you to pick any one of 5 insurance plans. The insurance plans do not define the medical care you get. All they do is compete on the administrative cost of who will deliver it most cheaply from an administrative point of view, not what you will get in the way of health care. Everybody will get the same health care, and that will include dentures, that will include glasses. And now, if you want more than what the voucher will permit, you can go get an insurance policy. But mind you, you have a choice of only 5. Forget these 100 of policies that are predators on the American. What you do, you have 5 choices, then plus you can have what I call the Kucinich choice. You can pick Medicare. I'm on Medicare. I think it's reasonably good. I think you can improve upon it greatly. Greatly. And so this would be the design of this healthcare. You have the choice of your doctor, the choice of your hospital. We'll have regional healthcare organizations by the government, like the Federal Reserve System, where they will concentrate on making sure that the health care that you're given is properly defined, and also on preventive health care. We have to have major national program to deal with obesity, to deal with the food we eat, to deal with exercise, all of this. And I hate to tell you, for a guy like me who's got a problem, with my feet, we're going to do some exercise when I'm President of the United States. You may see me on my Gazelle, but you're going to see me exercising to give the example. That's the beauty of being president. It's not that you know all the answers all day long. What you have to have is you have to have a certain moral awareness, so that all day long when you're making decisions, you make sure that they all have a moral content to it. And that's not what we see today. Let me touch a little bit to move into the fair tax. Now, a lot of Democrats get surprised that I'm the only Democrat anywhere, basically, that's talking about the fair tax. So you understand where I come from. I was 9 years on the Finance Committee in the Senate of the United States. I know the income tax system. And when I first got on as a freshman, I went to Russell Long after a year, and I said, Russell, our income tax system is corrupt, it stinks, it's damaging the country, and we've got to change it. And we had to do away with all exceptions. And I had a plan at the time called the single tax. Now this is 30 plus years ago. This isn't recent vintage. And Russell turned to me and says, Mike, you're out of your mind. You're trying to take away the power from Congress to run the economy. And besides, how are we going to take care of our friends if we give away that power? So obviously I didn't put it in, but I wrote it in a book called Citizen Power, which we're going to reissue here in 45 days. And it's going to have a new chapter. It's going to have a fair tax. Because the people who spent money studying this were close to what I was talking about, but I think they've done a better job. So real simple. If there's a problem we face today in this country is the fact that as a nation, we spend more money than we earn. You can't do that personally, and you can't do it as a nation. So we are going bankrupt. And so you know the size of the bankruptcy, we are $50 to $70 trillion in fiscal gap. That's to pay for the health care, Social Security, our defense, the wars, all that. $50 to $70 trillion. And so when a person stands up and says, I'm running for president, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that for you, he's a liar. Can't do it, we're bankrupt. And is the housing situation going to trigger the recession, depression that we could be hit with? I don't know. I pray not. Because I do know if we can change the system of revenue, that's the first opportunity we're going to have to move away and spend spending more than we earn. Because what we're going to do is we're going to change this nation from a consuming nation to a savings nation. And that will solve the fiscal gap. And that's what we have to do to become savers. And the only way you can do that is to give people incentives. Now, you don't want to pay any taxes? Don't spend any money. It's not complicated. Rather than go to a mall and have therapy because you got nothing else to do, stay home. You know, don't spend any money. Now, the fair tax can be made even more progressive than it is. And they're both progressive. The income tax, the more you earn, the more you pay. The retail sales tax, the more you spend, the more you pay. But we can add to that. We can turn around and say that we can identify very easily how much you will be paying tax on food, lodging, medicine, travel even, clothing. And then we identify that number of what you're going to pay that month on those essentials of life, and we send you a check. We've wiped out the IRS, but the Social Security Department is good at sending checks. So we'll have them send you a check every month. And this is not insubstantial. This could be anywhere from $300 to $500 a month. And then after you get that check, then you go get your paycheck, and there's no deductions for income tax, Social Security, health, Medicare, Medicaid. None of those taxes are there. They're gone. So you have that advantage. And so it's just that simple. Now what about the poor? Right now, we liberals, sometimes they classify me as that, what we say is, oh, if you've got income as a poor, you've got an earned income credit. But what about if you got no job? What happens? You go sleep under a bridge or you go on welfare. That's not an answer. But now the poor, for the first time in American history, because you see, they don't spend like the rest of us on the essentials of life, but they will be getting a check coming to them to pay for the tax, not the essentials, to pay for the tax on the essentials of life. And so they, in the first time in American history, will be getting a cash flow to the poor on what they would pay the tax on the essentials of life. This is, you're talking about progressive, this is progressive with a capital P. And that the Democrats won't tie into it. And here's what disturbs a lot of Democrats. When they love that, oh, Gravel walks on water. Then the minute I say, I'm no longer for taxes on corporations. Now this goes back for me 30, 40 years. And they say, my God, I don't understand this guy. Gravel was great, but all of a sudden he went off the reservation. Well, stop, let's do a little bit of economics 101. This business here, right now that we're in, they acquire beer, they acquire coffee, they take all of this activity, and then they hire some people to process it. So now they're going to sell you a cup of coffee. But they've got to make a profit on this, so he's got to tack a little bit of profit onto that cup of coffee. Okay? Then he's got to pay his taxes. So he's got to put the taxes on the cup of coffee. And so he sells you the cup of coffee. Who do you think is paying the taxes that he pays as a corporation or a business entity? Of course you do. You do. It'd be a lot better if you knew that and stopped playing the charade of trying to brutalize productive society and let them do what they're supposed to do and pay taxes directly. This is a retail sales tax. This bottle of water that was purchased from me earlier today has 23% income taxes in this bottle of water. So when we turn around and do away with income taxes, that means the cost of a product will come down 23%. You can turn around and add 23% income tax on this, and you're even. It's revenue neutral, and that's what this is all about. And it's sorely misunderstood. It's tragic because in my mind, it's the most important thing we can do domestically. We get our house in order of raising revenue, then a lot of things will fall from that. And the most important was we'll be able to solve our fiscal gap crisis. I hope I've explained it to your side. Please.
Is it right with for somebody who has a little bit lower credit score than somebody else to have to pay a lot more interest on their home mortgage?
Well, you're just touching upon one little problem called Wall Street. And if you look at where the Democrats are getting their money, you'll see it's coming from Wall Street. Where do you think Hillary gets her money? Obama. Just here. Hillary gets 89% of her money comes from donations of $500 or more. Obama is 68% of $500 or more. Now, these aren't kids donating. I'd be happy to get an average of $50 donation.
Amen.
Never mind this $500. Giuliani is only one notch above Hillary. He's 90% from $500 or more. And if you look at where the money, and here, you want to find out what kind of government you're going to get, follow the money. And all you got to do is just, you'll see it comes from Wall Street, it comes from the government contractors, the military industrial complex, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies. That's where all this money is coming from. And you think, regardless of what they tell you, that you're going to see a difference in this country if any one of them get elected? Never happen in your lifetime. And that's the reason why I started at the beginning. I not only was frightened at the beginning, I get more frightened all the time when I hear them talking. I don't know if I said it, Obama said we need 100,000 more soldiers. What for? What for? Who are we going to invade next? I mean, we're supposed to be getting out of Iraq. Well, here, I want to take credit. I want to take some credit. I'm the guy that filibustered the end of the draft.
Yeah.
And the reason... And what I'm so proud of is that Bush does not have the boots on the ground to invade Iran. But I'll tell you, there's always unintended consequences. And in the interest of full disclosure, I never realized that we'd have 50,000 mercenaries in Iraq as a result of the limitations that I brought about in the military. That's called privatization. And when they first started, they were talking about, oh, they're doing mess, they're peeling the potatoes. Like hell, they're peeling the potatoes. There's a little bit of motor pool, a little bit of food and service, but then there's 50,000 literal mercenaries. And that is a very dangerous situation in the world today. If we could get off this desire to be the strongest and most powerful country in the world, then we could handle our hubris and our ego and say, hey, we're no different than anybody else. All human beings want peace, and there's nothing stopping us and reorder our priorities. 30% of our children do not graduate from high school. And we're blowing all this money on munitions. In Alaska, they drilled 10 holes to put ABMs in that can't hit anything except they can go into outer space. And it was Clinton that started the outer space conflict. George Bush now wants to put silos in Poland and radar in Czech Republic. What's this all about? And then they joke and say, and then you hear American media, oh, Putin is starting the war again, the arms race. My God, Putin is 100% right. It's George Bush that's 1,000% wrong. And then not only with respect, and then China. Here, Roosevelt moves that stealth bomber wing to Guam to intimidate China. And then we have nukes pointed at China. We're out of our mind. You don't like China? Next time you go buy something, look at the label. If you don't like China, don't buy the label. But they treat everybody the same, please.
I heard some people interviewed and said that really the way we need to, only thing we can do is stop the corporations because they're the ones that have taken over the media and everything. But how do we really do that besides not patronizing?
You're stuck. A good friend of mine called Ben Bedikian wrote the book called, the seminal book, Media Monopoly. And right now it's even worse than when he wrote it 30 years ago. 5 corporations control the information you get. 5. And that is unbelievable. There's a joke. In the old days in the Soviet Union, the people never believed what was published in Pravda because they knew it was the party line. The problem is in the United States, we believe what comes out, but yet it's the party line. And that's our tragedy. But if you choose to stay informed, there's enough stuff sub rosa, whether it's the Prospect, whether it's Atlantic Monthly, whether it's Harper's. If you just stay attuned to it, you can see the stuff out there and realize what's going on. The problem is that the media structurally has deficiencies like representative government has that cannot be overcome by the media. It has to be dramatic. It has to be, particularly TV, it has to be in little sound bites. Well, life is not little sound bites. And if it is, it's a zillion sound bites that we have to suffer all the time. So I forgot the point I was going to make, but he raised his hand and I'll come back with it, please.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for coming to Florida.
And I'll be back. I'll be back. I want you to help me carry Florida. I rise 10% in the polls. I'll tell you, the national media will go bonkers. You have to cover. Please.
I wanted to ask you, in the Soviet Union, they had samizdat, in which people transmitted their messages to the next generation by handwriting copies. They didn't go out and get a printing press and distribute 1 million books because they knew that not only the press would be taken, but they'd all be killed. I wonder if there isn't a message in there or a lesson for your campaign, somewhat, in that you don't, if you really are for the people, you don't go and you pursue your agenda quietly rather than being loud.
Well, I'm quiet, but not by intent. I'm quiet because I'm being marginalized. I'm being marginalized by the mainline mainstream media. I truly am. You saw it at the debates. Here, the best I got at all the debates thus far, except the HRC debate, was 5 minutes. And what's happened, the internet is, boy, by 12 o'clock at night, and it's nothing that we did. Some young people grabbed this information and just brought down just the 5 minutes, or my 4 minutes, and put that up on YouTube, and it took off like wildfire. So the answer is, I'd like to have a larger voice, and I'm not bashful, as you can see. I'm not bashful to talk about issues. You start to think, what happened at one of the debates when I raised the issue about we've got to end the drug war in this country? It is savaging the inner cities. And it's destabilizing our foreign policy. And we're spending $50 to $70 billion a year on it. We've been doing it for 25 years. And there's not a person in this room that doesn't know that prohibition failed as a social experiment in this country. So that's where we're at. But where is the leadership? All I can say is I will say what I believe in. If it gets me elected, fine. If it doesn't get me elected, fine. But what's more important than my election is to empower you as lawmakers. And if I become president before you vote to enact yourself that power to make laws, I will use my presidency from the get-go to force the American people to vote for themselves to become empowered as lawmakers. Let me end on that note. I said it earlier. You have your responsibility as a citizen. You'll be able to do a better job with that responsibility when you become a lawmaker. But until that happens, you have what power you have. I have what power I have. I'm trying to use what I have as effectively as I can, and it's up to you to do the same thing from your venue of power and experience. And let me close on what is a tremendous turnout for me, and I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And here again, here is the fellow who is the chairman for the state. I want to carry Florida, and it's going to be up to you.
Money.
Organize them, make it happen. And I want to thank the person who just put up a check. I mean, that is really worth it. I don't have to raise $100 million. I got to tell you, in this whole national campaign, I raised $10 million. 10% of what the others raised, I win. Watch. Okay, thank you.
David Nelson, ladies and gentlemen. One moment. All right.
When you say, I know,
people perceive you. And I
I should be more clear, but I say income tax. It's a debt tax, state tax, not an income tax. It's an inheritance tax. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for a good question.
Something that I suggested, they said you could get somebody to do like maybe 30 2-minute slots.
What I'm going to be doing starting now is because I just acquired a Mac computer to do this. I'm going to be answering questions. So when you go to the website and you ask a question, I will answer it.
Yeah,
And
so
I'll
people
answer
can get
every
these
day.
little short
So-
sound
Oh yeah,
bites.
and every day I'll do anywhere from 3 to 10 a day. And I like it. I like it.
Because
As you
that's
can
the
tell, I
attention
like
span of most
questions.
people, and you can just say a lot in a short period of time.
We're good. It's taking this time to get organized.
Yeah.
We didn't have the resources.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they're coming.
I'm assuming, so I heard you on the debates and I was just really impressed. You have the courage to speak out.
No, I don't know if it's courage. I just feel
It
that.
is courage in
Feel
this
that.
day and age.
Thank you.
Cash, what you think about Ron Paul?
What about Ron Paul?
Yeah.
I think he's a good guy. I think Ron Paul's a good guy. I'd like to get together with Ron Paul on a national program for an hour where we discuss the nature of governance and discuss libertarianism and Republican and all of that. That would be very edifying to the American people, and I think the American people would be very interested in that kind of an approach because we're close on some issues and we're not on others. And so we could have a nice discussion. But I admire Ron Paul. In fact, he's the only Republican running that I have any respect for.
Yeah.
Excellent. But I wanted to thank you again, man. I've heard you twice today, and I'm very impressed. You're
Do
superb.
I get any better, or do I get any...
I said after the whole rock thing, then I was talking to my friends about it, and so I'm glad that person said that. And I said, they asked me, "What do you think? Is this a little bonkers?" I said, "Absolutely not. Sanest person you'll ever meet." You know.
Senator Gravel, aren't you more for like because Ron Paul's for privatization of the healthcare system and let the market forces work? Aren't you more for, that's wrong, right? Yeah. It should be more like a single payer.
Ron is a libertarian.
Yeah.
And so he's a purist libertarian. I've got some libertarian tendencies, but I'm not a purist in any stretch of the imagination.
You can't trust them.
Government is a tool. You pick it up when you need it, and you put it down when you need it. They are opposed to government, and that's
too
stupid.
extreme,
It's
yeah.
stupid. It's a tool. It's a tool to work collectively.
Right.
And so no, but it would a dialogue like that nationally would be very helpful to people, and that's why I like to be in a dialogue with Ron Paul because I respect him. I don't respect the others. I really don't.
They're not.
Even Huckabee, because but I got other problems with Huckabee.
Yeah.
I will stay in.
Should we ask about a rat?
Thank you. You got a lot of that. The French Canadian.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask you, have you seen the foreseeable end to this lunatic war on terror?
The way it's done, yes, no. Because first off, it's not a war.
No.
It's a criminal action. And these things go like this. So if we can concentrate on treating criminals and then go after the criminals, we can make some headway. But when we decide there's going to be a war, and then we go invade people who set army pieces, and we don't even do the intelligence process.
Wouldn't you agree that by the accepted definition of terror, what our elected officials are actually doing with regards to the war on terror, essentially holding it over the heads of our nation as a threat?
No,
If we don't acquiesce, is that not terrorist in itself?
Yes, but what they're doing is more subtle than that. What they're doing is instilling fear in all of us.
Absolutely.
So we will accept
That's
the
it.
prioritization of the military industrial
But
complex.
aren't they terrorists by definition as well?
Hey, when you invade and kill people, you're a terrorist.
That's it.
Of course they've done that.
Well, so then technically, shouldn't we all be up in arms?
Let me give you a piece of advice.
Yes.
I become president, I'm going to try and push George Bush, all of them in jail.
Yes.
No action. I become president, we're not going to make that mistake.
Thank you, sir.
How are we going to get out of them?
Well, you got to elect somebody. I don't see anybody on the scene. That's one of the reasons why I'm running.
Right.
You don't think any of those Democrats are going to end the war? Hell no. Listen to the code words. Well, we're going to withdraw some of our troops. We're going to have some over the horizon. What's all this horizon? We want to control their oil. And that puppet government has walked into this oil agreement, which Alaskans would laugh at. It's so preposterous. And we want to control it for American corporations. Well, that's not 1 ounce of oil is worth 1 ounce of American or Iraqi blood. It's their oil. They can use it for their purposes and for their gains. But we should be getting off of oil as fast as we can. We're fighting. We're using our treasure to get control of the Titanic. That's what's going on.
Do we get our fair cut of the oil reserves, of the revenues that is drilled here in the United States? Does the American public get
No,
their
you're
fair share?
asking for too much. Here,
Nobody's been able to tell me
go
anything
for
about that.
hydrogen and windmills, and you'll have all the benefits. Okay?
Fond of a little joke saying that picture dead man, George Bush has done a lot for this country. It must be very inspiring to say that to handicapped persons.
Who's been saying that?
Big, very deadpan. But I was wondering, if the George Bush, he's an idiot, he's this, he's that, is he stupid like a fox, or does he really believe what he's saying?
First off,
Yeah, do you believe that he really
George
believes?
Bush, first off, George Bush is not very bright. That's the first thing. And if you recall up to 9/11, he was the joke of the country. He couldn't put three phrases together.
No, he couldn't.
And so now 9/11 occurs. And what happens? Oh, we all rally around the leader. So all of a sudden he becomes the leader. All he's done since 9/11 is proved that our judgment of him as a modest person before 9/11 is accurate. Because look at what he's done to the country since 9/11.
Nothing good.
That's right. It proved our judgment of what he was before. Now, George is not a bright guy. Not at all. And what's compounded that is this messianic religious view that God made him president and God instructed him to invade Iraq. He's admitted that publicly. And so now, all I can say, I don't know that God. I don't know a God that wants to punish and deal in violence. The only God I know is the God of love.
Yeah.
And
God wants to deal with violence, I don't want to deal with him.
2 minutes, okay, 2 minutes.
But how are we going to make retribution to all of the damage we've done? I mean, everybody now really hates us.
Well, let me tell you, the world has great capacities, that great healing power. Our problem is that if we don't cook ourselves off the planet, if we can get together and develop this concept of the paradigm, what I'm talking about empowering Islam, that is changing the paradigm of human governance. That's what that is, and that will go around the world. We do that, we will now be in a position for the people to make the proper decisions, not our leaders. Our leaders, regardless if it's now or 100 years ago, our leaders have led us into where we're at today, and we can do a better job with the people being informed with a better structure of government. There's only 2 venues.
People are so uninformed, and they're
Well,
like,
listen, but they'll always be uninformed if you let the leaders dictate what information you're going to get. You have to break the Gordian knot at some point. My hope is this is the election to do it. They're angry enough, and if they do it now, it's because of George Bush. It's been so bad that people are so fed up that they may be ready for a big change. But if they're not, then you're going to have the continuation of what we've had, whether moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats. It just is not going to solve the problems of the world.
so how are we going to get you elected if the elections are rigged? That's my, what do we do?
You don't think I don't worry about that?
I mean, what was this national institute?
National Initiative.
National initiative, is that the key?
It is. Go to National Initiative and vote. You vote for it. If you don't like it a month later, you can change your vote. But you can vote for it. When we get 60 million Americans, it becomes the law of the land. Forget the government. This goes around the government entirely. Got nothing to do with the Congress. It's a piece of legislation that the American people vote for it. It is the law of the land. The Supreme Court can't touch it. And you will be empowered as lawmakers.
So that would
The
be a place to
foundation,
start.
it is the place to start. Go to there and vote. Gotta go. Thank you. Bye.
One final comment for the
I need Florida. I want to carry Florida, and I need the people
That's Sam Simpson.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right, have a good trip back.
Okay.
Hey, on your leg and feet problem, I just started taking Rutin. I've only been doing it for 2 days. It builds up the arteries and veins. Rutin. It's
I use
some kind of herb.
Well, I don't know.
Seems to work good. It's already working.
Okay, good.
Rutin.
Something. You gonna sell the country down just to get elected? They can't all be good people elected. Well, I don't know. We don't, you know. Gotta go. See you later. See you later. Bye. Better get going. Thank you.
What do you guys think about Gravel?
What hole did they drag you at?
Rock on.
Press.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, they should be impeached.
Can you list all the reasons, or just your favorite reason?
Oh, well, there's so many, yeah. I mean, none of them are my favorite. I wish there wasn't any reason, you know? But I think that this country is a lot more ready for it than what anybody thinks, especially the media, who's not covering anything. We're having a march next weekend, march on Washington for impeachment and against the war, and you don't hear about that anywhere.
Right.
I even called in on a call-in show and they said, oh, the Democrats don't care about that now, they're doing something else, and they wouldn't even read what I wrote.
So being frozen out by the mainstream press.
Right.
Or all press, probably.
So who are you with?
I'm with...